Hey guys, welcome to the Go Mango Anime Cast. Tonight we'll be reviewing Darling in the FranXX Episode 8. I'm your host, Makotoa, and with me today we have...
the Cinder Blaze.
So, after our last episode, which was the beach episode, this time we have... what do you even call this? Shenanigans?
It's like a really cliche boys versus girl episode.
Yeah.
Which is nice to have in moderation, unless like your entire series is kind of devoted to stuff like that, like a rom-com, which it would make more sense in. And this series is kind of in that realm. Like, by this point in the series, I can't really see it as like a strictly action series.
Yeah.
Especially since a lot of the time is devoted to these character interactions and like the etchiness.
More and more getting into character interactions. And this episode especially, it feels like this is setting somebody up to die. That's what this is feeling like. Like we're starting, they're pretty much making us fall in love with some of these characters more endearing, more enjoyable to watch. And then they at the end they're teasing like, oh yeah, you should probably say what you want to say now. You're probably all gonna die. It's like, oh.
Yeah, like it makes sense for 02 to say it at least. Like if it was probably one of the commanders or something like that, then I would take it a bit more gravely. But 02 has been on the combat much longer than the other cadets have been, so she's just kind of used to it. She's like, oh, they're probably gonna die, you know?
Oh no.
But like the thing that really like hit me in this episode was like
the panties
50 seconds in, and like the goo is melting their clothes off. I'm just like, of course that's what it does. First they're just like referencing bukakes and stuff, and just like, yeah, or not referencing, they're saying it, but that was like a bit much. And I know you want to like kind of push the puberty like quote arc. I don't really call it an arc, but like just like the development of like puberty and its interactions with like the team as a whole, which makes a lot of sense in like the context of this series. I didn't really like how crudely it was done, but a lot of this series is, a lot of the draw of the series is how crudely things are done at times.
Yeah, it was a little much even for this series, but I mean, I guess looking back, is it really the way they've...
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even say it is, because, man, like,
it doesn't feel right. Like, after, like, that 50-second mark, I was like, this anime is for horny teenagers, isn't it? Like, I'm not too far off. Like, I'm in college and stuff, but, like, this stuff doesn't appeal to me as much as it probably would have, like, if I was back in high school, you know? That's just the type of feel I got from him. Like, oh shoot, is this an anime that I've outgrown? Like, should I even be watching this? Will I enjoy it as much as other people will? And that's like something I'm like keeping in the back of my mind since like we're reviewing this,
I don't know,
like,
man.
maybe
the Japanese are probably all over the place with what they're into. Who knows what age group this is appealing to? Like at this point. But I still found the episode very enjoyable, like just because I liked to watch them at odds with each other, just kind of having these petty little fights and like seeing each other try to rub it into each other's face, like, oh yeah, you guys can't use the bath, you're gonna have to go somewhere else. And then the guys are like, okay, sure. So they just walk around like with their underwear on. It's like, what are you doing? Well, we couldn't use the bath, so we had to go wash up in the lake.
The way they're just like strutting in their underwear, with like all that like audacity.
Yeah.
Like,
it was.
Oh man.
And then
especially Zorome. Oh,
yeah.
God, he's my favorite character right now.
I know. Gosh.
Yeah, and he starts like making the monkey noises on the stairs. Oh man. I feel like the girls got shafted super hard. No pun intended.
I mean, it wasn't the guy's fault that, this happened. I mean, I want to blame somebody, but it wasn't the guys. Somebody was at
but
fault
they
for
were
this.
kind of like, shh, what are you doing? Don't tell them.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Okay, slightly to blame, but I liked what the fat guy was like. He was so honest at the start of this episode. He was just like, "But I found you incredibly beautiful." It was just like, oh.
Yeah, it's just like, but for real though, I'm really turned on.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man. And then the guy's just like, oh, you idiot.
Oh my gosh. And like, funny enough, his partner, the kind of shy girl, she wasn't even like that offended the whole way through, which is kind of like they all have different quirks about them. I like it.
Yeah, I think her name is like Kokoro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then like later on in the episode, she's like interacting with like that one douchey guy.
Yeah,
forgot his name.
Yeah,
but the guy with the slick back hair,
mm-hmm.
and like I actually like their moments just because the douche guy is kind of just like laid back and kind of gives like this. I like his perspective on like the team as a whole, because he's kind of like he's in it, but he's also kind of like outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
While like we have Hiro, even though he's kind of like the furthest away from like the group, he's also kind of like well ingrained into it already. Like he's kind of the focal point of the group, but kind of not. It's kind of weird, but like he's kind of
everybody
just, like looking
has
at the
this,
entire thing.
Yeah, it's such a weird group dynamic, but I love it because it makes everything unique. It's not super stereotypical, whereas some of the character types or archetypes are a little bit stereotypical. It still feels way more fleshed out than you normally would get sometimes with
for these character types.
Yeah, especially like you've got female characters that are, everybody's paired off in this anime literally, but they are still interacting with characters that aren't their pairing. Like you're saying, the shy girl, she's not even paired with the slicked back D-bag guy. Like, and yet they're having character interactions too. And then obviously Ichigo interacts with Hiro and her partner, and they have character moments too. It's like I really enjoy there's dynamics going on between some of the members where it's not just everybody, it's not just this kind of harem effect where nobody interacts with each other except for just the protagonist.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And like the second you said that word protagonist, just
who is I mean Hiro.
I just want to get this out like right now. I really hated Hiro this episode.
You did?
Well, yeah, it wasn't like the worst possible performance from a main character ever, but it's just so boring.
Hey,
like he just says,
could have been
insert like the most generic shonen protagonist lines, and that is exactly what he's saying. Like you can those are cookie cutter lines you can put in any freaking situation across multiple anime, and it would work.
You're right.
And here it felt like, oh, you just cut and paste it from some other situation, and it's like whatever.
I felt like they forced that specific role for that moment on Hiro in a sense, because they already had...
But it's been going on for a while. Like the way he's like, oh, I see her more than what she is. And it's like, really? Like,
come on.
Can you just like stop repeating those lines and just kind of like...
It hasn't bothered me
build
enough
more
yet.
depth to it.
It hasn't bothered me enough yet, buddy, but that's probably because I've been so... I have such a low standard because of Lucky. Like that, Yosha Lucky and we're good. This was better than most things Lucky says, in my opinion. So maybe it's just my skewed standard or whatever, but I was cool with it. I think it was a little bit forced to pick him, but I mean I guess he's got kind of more, I don't know, he thinks about things a different way sometimes. It was just his equivalent of, what was it, 02, or even the shy girl, like kind of having that, hey, enough is enough, we need to actually work with the boys. It was the equivalent. So one of the boys had to be that. Who else was it really going to be?
Yeah.
But
like, I don't know, the way he did it was kind of just bleh.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that Zorame and like the other boys kind of like bounced off of that was a lot more impactful than what Hiro was like really doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a weird main character for this series. Like I know he has the potential to be better later, but like right now in this episode especially, it just felt like, man, this guy could totally be a side character.
Oh.
Like if it wasn't for 02 being
Alex.
like who she is, like, you know.
Oh, Alex.
would just...
See, you don't. if you have maybe one day you could go back and watch Neon Genesis Evangelion, because Hiro is kind of like.
I was about to say that, like
he's kind of like that protagonist, but he's much better. If you want to think like, what is this guy? You know, he's always sulking around.
Like when I said like the cookie cutter protagonist lines, the first person that came to mind was Shinji. I didn't even watch most of Evangelion, but like I did watch like bits and pieces, and that is like the first image that actually came to mind. Shinji. And like the term I was like having in my head wasn't protagonist cookie cutter speech. It was Shinji speak.
Shinji speak. Oh man.
Like,
oh man.
Like I thought we've kind of like evolved past these type of characters, and I really like this anime as a whole, and that's kind of why I'm like overly harsh on Hiro, because he's too bad for the anime he's in. Even though like by himself he's not that bad. Like that's the way I kind of think.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. What did you think about 02 this episode?
I described her in our little Skype chat, but she's a bitch. But
oof.
she is so entertaining.
I freaking loved 02 this episode so much. I think I am falling for her as my favorite like character right now. She is, especially because of this episode, those hijinks. She was like, yeah, why would you want to, you guys aren't even serious about, you know, fighting with the boys. And they're like, actually, we're serious. And she's like, all right. Now that I know that you're like gonna get upset if I mess around, I'm in. Like, so.
Yeah, that false alliance. That felt so sweet.
It was so good. And then, you know, she took off with their clothes and freaking threw them around. She's like, don't I, you know, don't.
Yeah, I legit didn't know how they would resolve this.
Yeah.
Like, the way the argument was going, I don't think anyone would actually win or lose. It's just gonna be up to, you know, thankfully the dead mother just showed out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or not their dead mother, but you know, their boss.
Pretty much. That was great, actually. I liked that she finally stepped in and got, you know, she was sick of and tired of these kids just screwing around.
Yeah. But apparently one of the chicks, I forgot her name as well, but, you know, the pink-haired, not pink-haired, but red-haired girl. Yeah. That just, like, ran away and went in that one room that was kind of, like, blocked off for some reason. But it was kind of blocked off for a stupid reason, in my opinion. It was the room of, like, a former Squad 13 member. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, did they die, like, or did they, like, move the other orphans in the second they died and they didn't have room to kind of, like, you know, take their belongings out? You know, like, that isn't something that you would want to keep.
Yeah, why
in there unless
you all the same? And honestly, it's almost,
unless they wanted to.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of like that whole beach trip where it's almost like it feels like their lives are being completely controlled. Is this actually meant for them to discover? You know?
Yeah, just so they can kind of like face their own mortality in some sort of way.
Because it's already like proven or evident or whatever, especially in this episode, that they're just an experiment. They're an experiment group.
Yeah.
You know, the old Oyaji guy with the robot face. Like,
yeah, the old cyborg dude.
Yeah.
Please give me those detailed reports.
Yes, detailed reports. Oh, man.
Yeah, and like, my first reaction when like the redheaded girl kind of just like collapsed and was kind of freaking out, I was like, whoa, that's a bit too intense. But like when you actually think about it, you know, 02 just mentioned that like
You're all gonna die.
that they could have just like died,
Yeah.
you know, or they're gonna die pretty soon.
Mhm.
And like no one really believes it, but when she actually goes to the room of someone who actually died, like
Yeah.
that's her first kind of moment of actually, you know, not experiencing death, but like witnessing like it's
The reality
that it is a reality.
Yeah.
You know, like you're in the room of a dead person.
Yep.
Like that is actually pretty traumatizing for someone of that age. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, that is one of the gems of this episode. That and Zorome kind of nailed every single scene he was in. Basically everyone except Hiro. I'm sorry, Hiro. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
I mean, there will be many attempts for you to prove yourself
There's
as a character.
plenty of time, and he's gonna get the screen time for it. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
But well, I think that's good. I'm satisfied with our discussion.
Yeah.
Unless you've got anything else to say.
No, I basically covered everything that I would possibly want
Right.
to talk about.
Okay, well, what did you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to hear more from us each week. Trying to get this one out as soon as possible, so, you know, please understand. Bear with us as we continue to try and stay consistent. Also, there's a Discord chat in the description below. Click on it if you want to say hi to us. At any rate, I guess we will see you guys next week. Later.
See ya.